The following story was submitted to us from a lady in Wyoming. It's going to be in two parts because it is a bit long. I hope you enjoy part one, her encounter with Jacob. Meeting Jacob. I found myself in a really bad situation, and this taught me a very, very hard lesson about giving my phone number out to strangers online. This started 5 months ago, and it's still a nightmare for me. I met this guy named Jacob on Facebook. Of course, he had replied to a message that I had written on a post from a news story. It was basically a Facebook page of my local news, and I'd written on a story, a reply, that had impacted the community. And not to get into too many details, but it was about a car accident in town, and I commented that I hope the family is doing better now. Jacob replied to my comment and said he hoped the same and asked if he could get to know me better. I replied to his public comment and told him sure, but I don't know if we know each other from town or what. Just for context, I live in a fairly small town where everybody kind of knows everybody. Just to give you a little bit of an idea, I live in Wyoming. There's not a lot of people in my town that we don't know each other. We all know each other. So I thought maybe he was someone that I went to high school with all those years ago, or maybe someone I had worked with in person and forgotten about. Well, I wasn't totally sure. When Jacob messaged me, he told me that he was 40 years old and that he was in the military. And he was a single guy and a single father. He was deployed to Afghanistan but had returned home to Miami, Florida after the war had ended. And I asked him, well, how do you know me then? Did you live in this town at one time, or do we know each other from a relative or something? He told me no. He just likes to read and educate himself with online news stories and told me that he found my comments smart and caring and that he loved my profile photo and would like to get to know me more better. To understand a little bit about me and how I got into this situation, and please, I'm not using this as an excuse, so I hope your viewers don't feel that way, but I'm extremely obese. And I don't need to lose just 50 pounds. I'm actually considered what many would call a supersized BBW or an SSBBW, basically meaning I'm extremely overweight. But I've been this way most of my life, and I've kind of accepted that most guys are not too into bigger women like me, and they're not too nice to women like me. And most of the ones online that are basically looking for a fetish. I had joined a few dating sites in the past and found that it was more of a fetish for guys and not them wanting to know me on a deeper level. Well, Jacob told me that my profile picture was beautiful. My profile picture at the time was kind of just from the nose up, like a close-up selfie. And you could see that I was overweight. I had a bunch of stickers on my face that I put on from the photo on Photoshop. I wrote back to Jacob and told him, I think you're crazy. And he wrote back, why? He said, you're very smart. You're very attractive to me, he said. Well, I told him, I live in a tiny town in Wyoming, the same town that I commented on the news story, because he'd asked me where I was from. I told him I've lived in this area most of my life, and I've grown up in different similar small towns in the area, but Wyoming is where I've settled. He asked if I was married, and I told him of course not. I live alone. My parents don't live far from me, though. And like I said, it's a close-knit community. But I do live by myself, just me and my cat. I do work, though, so don't get me wrong. I don't sit home all day collecting paychecks. I do have a job. I work online as a virtual customer service assistant. This job has given me the ability to stay home and not be too public. So much that I hate to say it, but people sometimes are not too kind to me, especially when you're extremely overweight. Jacob started telling me about his life. He said he was in the Army, and he's still in the military, but just on a little bit of a leave. He said he had a daughter named Maya, who was 8 years old, and the mother of his child had ran off with his best friend, that she had cheated on him and left him completely emotionally destroyed, and he just focused on raising his daughter by himself and being the best single father that he could be. Jacob asked me if I had any kids, and I told him no, just my cat. And let's face it, I haven't found anybody that really wants to be with me long term, and having kids is kind of out of the picture for me. Not just on a health perspective, but I really don't want kids. I don't mind if other people have kids and we date, but that's what I basically told him. He asked me for more photos of myself, and I asked him if he was sure. I explained to him that I'm extremely overweight, not the prettiest girl in the room. He told me age and face is nothing. It doesn't matter. It's the soul and heart. I'm looking for it. Well, it took a little bit of courage for me, and he convinced me that he's a good guy, so I sent him a few full body photos of myself. He wrote back immediately, sending a bunch of photos of himself. He was a very handsome, muscular army guy, and I asked him what he thought of me and if he's ready to chat. Now, the photos I sent of him were not provocative. They were me in my work clothes. I'm just a basic girl. Jacob told me, no, he said I was beautiful, and that nothing matters, just the soul. Well, I was a little skeptical, but at the same time, it felt good to get attention from this guy. He sent me a bunch more photos and a few videos, and he told me they lived in Miami, Florida, and that he often goes on deployments for the military. He also told me that he works part-time in dealing with real estate, and that he buys and sells homes, fixes them up, and makes money that way, which I kind of found interesting. He asked me if I own or rent my home, and I told him that I have a duplex that I rent, but it's owned by my uncle, so it's sort of like my own home, but not really. My uncle owns it, and he told me part of my rent is always going towards the purchase of the home. So in some way, it sort of is my home, and I sort of rent it. But at the end of it all, once the mortgage is done, I'll end up owning the home. Well, he didn't quite understand, and he just asked me what kind of house. And I told him again, it's a duplex. And he didn't understand right away. He asked me how many people live with me, and I told him no one. It's just me and my cat. When I tried to explain it to him, it was sort of like an apartment, sort of like a house. He asked me how many rooms in my home. I said it's a one bedroom, one bath. It's a small duplex. And it's actually a fourplex that was broken up into several different rentals that my uncle uses to make some passive income. We started talking a little bit more, and he told me that he was born and raised in Germany. He actually lived in Berlin, and then his mom had left his father because his father was abusive, and she came to the United States after meeting an American military man who pretty much rescued them, brought them to the U.S., and he's lived most of his life in Florida. Although with being in the Army, he has been deployed to several places and lived different places. When I asked where his daughter goes when he's deployed, he told me that she stays with a special nanny school because his mom had passed away years ago, and that nanny is part of a military program for single fathers and single parents. So when they get deployed, they have their children stay in this special type of boarding school. Jacob told me that he had found love online, but it didn't work out, and he asked what my experience was in online dating. I told him not great. I had met a few guys from online, and I actually had one long-distance relationship with a guy. We stayed together for a couple of years. He had come out, and we'd met several times, and actually, let me tell you a bit of a backstory on that. I had met this guy in a chat room. Yes, a chat room. And he came out to see me, stayed at my house for 2 weeks, and then we had a great time together, but he lived far away in a different state. And so he would come and go and visit over several years. We had this online, long-distance, sort of in-person relationship, but he never wanted to marry me. Never wanted anything serious, and then I found out he was chatting to other women like myself, and in fact I found out he had a bit of a fetish for big women, and he was cheating on me, which left me devastated because he made me feel like I was special. And I told Jacob this. And he said it was wrong and a real man would not treat me that way. We ended up exchanging email addresses because he had asked for it, and then he asked for my phone number, which I really didn't see the harm as I'd given my phone number out to a couple of people that I'd dated online before, and nothing ever came of it. Usually they don't call back, so why not? I gave Jacob my phone number, he gave me his, which was a Miami area code, and asked if we can chat on WhatsApp. Well, we started chatting on WhatsApp, and he even called me a few times, and he had a bit of an accent. His voice was extremely deep. I actually told him he sounds like the singer Barry White, and he didn't know who Barry White was. We chatted for a bit more, and more turned into every day, and every day turned into hours at a time. I went ahead and tried to video call him several times, and he would pick up, but he said he was busy training, and then he would end up either sending me a video of him training with the Army, or he would pick up the video call, and it would be him in a barrack somewhere. He'd be training or talking, and there'd be other people around. So we never actually one-on-one video chatted. He explained to me that he was training for a special mission, and we really shouldn't be video chatting. It's actually forbidden because he's training for this secret mission, and he said he's going to be going over to the Ukraine because of the war, and he was selected, along with a few other special soldiers, to do a special mission. He told me he would be over there for 3 months, and then he would actually be back home in Miami. I was still a little bit skeptical because why would this great, handsome, muscular, fit man who obviously spends his days in the gym and eating healthy want to be with me? I'm a complete opposite. I like my pizza on Fridays. I drink soda. I don't like to exercise, and I'm a bit of a homebody. With my cat, we stay home, we watch TV, and we hang out. That's life. I told him this, and Jacob said, I don't think we'd get along in person. I think we would. I told him, well, you seem very fit. And I asked him what a typical day is. He told me he wakes up every day at 5 a.m., goes jogging. I told him, well, that's not on my bingo card, and he didn't get the joke and really didn't understand. Nonetheless, we kept talking and talking. We really got to know each other, and more he told me his favorite foods, his likes, dislikes. He told me all about the Army, and I really opened up with him about having life here with my parents, how great the people are. But they've always been a little bit toxic as well. They don't encourage me to get healthy. I actually think they prefer for me to stay unhealthy. And I told Jacob, there's been several times I've wanted to try and lose weight, and I've tried and failed. I told him someday I hope to get back to where I need to be. Just be healthy. Not even in a beauty standard. Jacob encouraged me, though. He told me that we could exercise together every morning, and I kind of laughed at it a bit, but he was serious. He started calling me at 7 a.m. my time every day. I start work at 8. And he would encourage me to exercise and move my legs, move my arms, dance to some music. He actually became pretty helpful in teaching me about nutrition, which really surprised me. But being in the Army, I figured he would know. He was very smart when it came to what to eat, calories, protein. He really got into it, and he talked to me about it for quite a long time. We got really close this way, and honestly, I started losing some weight. We would wake up every day, and he would call me, and we'd talk about exercising, and sometimes he would even sing to me while we were on the phone, telling me to move around and sway to the music, just to get up and move. He helped me with a lot of nutrition, although some of the foods he told me to eat were a little bizarre for me, and I thought maybe because he was from Germany, he mentioned some foods that I'd never heard of before, but I kept an open mind, and, well, over time, we got to really get close, and then he had to go to the Ukraine, and that's when I fell apart. I told him I wouldn't know what to do if anything happened to him. We seriously talked about meeting someday and getting closer and closer, and he told me not to worry, that he would be home safe in 3 months' time, and he said in 3 months that he would only be away and he would try to call me as often as possible, but it wouldn't be every day thing. With the Army training and all the combat roles that he'd be in a special mission, but he told me to please make the effort. And he also said that his daughter would really miss him as well, as she was staying with him until he got deployed, and now she's back at the special school in Miami with the nanny minder. And sort of like a boarding school, from what he explained, and he gave me his daughter's email address and asked if I would email her once in a while, maybe keep her busy. Send her some songs. He told me that she loves K-pop music, and maybe just help her get through this as well. He hoped it would be a last mission in the Army, and then he would put in for retirement after his commander would give permission. We had talked about meeting as well. When he got back from the Ukraine, he said that he wanted to come and see me in Wyoming. I told him, well, you can try, but I said, you need to be here before the snow flies, as it gets very cold, and a Florida boy wouldn't like the cold, snowy weather. In fact, honestly, I live in a place where it snows and ices so bad we get cut off from the highway, so he would really need to make sure and prepare if he wants to come and see me before the winter. And I was nervous about that. I didn't know if I'd be good enough for him. I was losing some weight, though, but I'd lost only 15 pounds since we started talking, and I encouraged myself, and he encouraged me to lose more weight while he was gone so I could surprise him when he came to see me. Well, I stuck with my diet and my fitness regimen. I actually went and took it out to look good, and I felt a lot better too, health wise. But the day came he left, and I really was depressed and stressed out, and I fell back into my normal routine of eating pizza. I ate a whole pizza that night because I really missed him and his encouragement. But I didn't let myself fall down the rabbit hole. The next day I got up, did my exercise, continued with my healthy eating, and work online. Jacob did message me and told me that he got to Ukraine, and it was about 20 hours later, and he told me he was doing well, but it was very confusing there, as there was a soldier there that he didn't necessarily get along with, and he didn't know why they were there, and I told him, well, let's just get through it. It'll be okay. Think of it as a pesky coworker. We would start chatting at night now. Usually about 1 o'clock in the morning my time, Jacob would call me and check on me, and I was really tired now. Keep in mind I work online from 8 a.m. till 4:30 in the afternoon. Then I do my normal night routine and I go to sleep. Well, Jacob started calling me 1:30 in the morning, sometimes 2, and we would talk for hours. So I wasn't getting a whole lot of sleep, and in the mornings I had to get up, go to work, and if we talked till 4 a.m., I'd wake up at 6 or 7, do my exercises, get ready, and little to no sleep. And those days really came hard. Come Wednesday or Thursday, I was exhausted after a few days of living that way. I was yawning on the phone when talking to customers, and that's not good. I couldn't do my job. I messaged Jacob and told him, I understand that you're away, but I need to get some sleep. He'd asked if I'd forsaken him and if I didn't love him because he planned on marrying me. And he showed me a picture of a Damascus gold ring that he had bought me while he was in Ukraine. That there was a special jeweler who had fled Syria and had bought the ring from him. And that he was going to surprise me, but now it seems I don't want to talk to him. I was shocked, and I told him that's not the case. I just need some sleep. And I was very touched that he had a ring for me. I've never even been given a ring before or gifts like that. I told him, of course I want to be with you, and you can propose when we meet in person. Jacob mentioned several times how dangerous it was, and how he wasn't getting along with the men that were in his platoon, and the one guy was causing him problems. He would hide Jacob's ammunition, hide Jacob's shoes, or tie his shoelaces together and pull pranks on him, and it was making him angry. I told Jacob to just go to his commanding officer and complain, but he told me no because everyone else loved this guy, and he didn't get along with him, and it was just for a few days, and he didn't hear from Jacob. I got worried. After a few days, he quit contacting me, and I was worried. I thought maybe him and this guy got into a fight or something. Well, I messaged him, and Jacob finally replied and told me that he was okay. I told him, well, I had needed sleep, and he took that as seriousness. He said that he gave me time to sleep and didn't contact me. I told him, well, I didn't sleep very well because I was worried about you, and he said that things were bad here, that that guy was causing him more problems and still causing him problem after problem. He even complained to his commander, but the commander scolded him instead, saying that this fellow soldier has done nothing wrong. I told Jacob, just get through it. You've only got a couple of months. We can get through this together. He asked how I was doing, and I told him okay. Work had slowed down a little bit. I was still working, but I get contracts for customer service jobs, so sometimes I can go a week or two with no work, and then I pick up another contract, and that's what I explained to him. Jacob got upset with me, and he asked if I'm not working, what am I doing to pay my bills? I told Jacob it's not like that. I have money set aside, and I'm waiting to pick up another contract from another customer service job. It's just that sometimes I'll go a week or two without work, and then it picks up again. I'm able to pay things. He asked, how do I make money? I told him not to worry. I put everything in savings. I pay my bills and put a little away for moments like these. I've been working these online service jobs since 2020. I know how it goes. I told him, it's not my first rodeo. I know how to put money away. He didn't understand. Jacob asked me if I had written to his daughter, and I told him no, and he encouraged me to email her that she had talked to him and she was really sad, and messaging him, and that it was a little awkward. I told him, I really don't know your daughter, but I'll be happy to write her and check in with her and maybe just ask her some basic questions like how's school, how are you, what's your favorite song. He then told me again that she loves K-pop music. I told him I don't really know what K-pop is, but I definitely educated myself about it before reaching out. I did email his daughter, and she wrote back almost right away. She told me that her daddy had told all about me to her and that she can't wait to meet me and we're going to be a family. I was a bit taken back by this, and I didn't know what Jacob had told her. I told him, well, I'm your daddy's friend. Maybe one day we can all meet. What's your favorite song? What's your favorite K-pop band? I tried to move the subject to something a bit more lighter. I asked her what her favorite subject was in school, what she likes to do for fun. Does she have any friends? Well, she wrote back to me telling me she loved all music, not just K-pop, and that her dad is so old-fashioned he doesn't understand new music, and that she doesn't have any friends in school, that they're very mean because she doesn't have a mother. I told her not to mind the bullies. I got bullied in school too, and I understand. Just ignore them and keep studying. You'll be something someday. Jacob then called me the next night, I believe it was, and the next night and the night after that at 2 in the morning. And of course, it was on a Tuesday when I really was tired and I had worked and I had to work the next day. I had picked up a new contract, and the new job had me working at 6 a.m. login time, working till noon, taking a 4-hour break, and then working another 3 hours in the evening. It wasn't crazy, but it was crazy hours. And this contract was more money, and I was working again. Jacob called me upset and said he didn't get a hold of his daughter and that his phone was not working correctly. He said he was really surprised. When I asked him what happened, he said that he thinks his soldier buddy that he has to work with messed with his phone and thinks that he had stolen the minutes off his Apple Card and that he needs an Apple Card to load up time. I told him, well, I don't know what you're going to do, Jacob. He then asked me if I could go to the store and get him an Apple Card, a $100 card, so he could load time onto his phone right away and secure the phone so that the other soldier doesn't get into it. I didn't know what Apple Cards were, and I was thinking they were prepaid minute phone cards like a track phone. I told Jacob that might be a challenge for me. I don't really go out to the store often. In fact, since 2020, I just order my stuff and do a delivery pickup. It makes it easier for me. To be honest, I don't like being out in public very much, and Jacob begged me, though. He asked me to please go to the store, get the card, do what you have to do, and he pleaded and begged. He said he was afraid he couldn't use his phone, and he didn't know what to do. He needed to talk with his daughter. I told him I would do my best. I felt guilty. So I actually did get in my car, which I rarely drive, and went to the local store. I ended up going to this small little grocery store, like a mom and pop store, looking for this elusive Apple Card, to which I couldn't find them in the store in our little town. It's like a general store, and they don't really have much stuff like gift cards. They're hard to find, so I ended up driving all the way into town to Walmart, which is really further away. It was a little cold and uncomfortable as the roads were just iced over. Not enough to scare me, but I ended up for the first time in a long time going to a Walmart, walking around. I finally found the Apple Card, and actually they're in the back of the store, in the electronics department. I bought a $100 card, picked up a few extra things, saw a couple of people I hadn't seen in years, and went home, and I waited for Jacob to call me, because I had messaged him telling him I got the card. Well, Jacob did call me, and he asked where the card is. I told him I have it. He told me to snap the back, scratch the number, snap the back right away, get me the card right away. He was actually very pushy. And I asked him what his problem is, and he said he was upset because he needs to make phone calls regarding his bank account, as he thinks this soldier has stolen his debit card information and has locked barracks and has used the debit card online to make purchases, and he's worried because the debit card is used to pay for the tuition of his daughter's school. And I was confused. I said, his daughter's in a military boarding school. And he said, yes, but we have to pay for the tuition. And school had contacted him via email telling him that the tuition had not been paid, that his card was rejected. I didn't know how this all worked, and I could tell in his voice that he was really upset. So I sent him the card and he thanked me, and I told him yes, I was at the store. And while I was there, I ran into a friend of mine that I used to go to high school with. His name is Brandon. We hadn't seen each other in years. Well, this is when Jacob got upset. He asked me who this man is and why I'm talking to other men. Well, I told Jacob, I'm not talking to other men. He's someone I went to high school with. He's just an old friend that I've known for years and that I'd lost contact with. I lost contact with a lot of friends, but we were always friends on Facebook, but it was great to see each other in person. Jacob didn't like this. He asked what Brandon's name is, and I told him. I didn't think much of it, and went about our conversation, and he again thanked me for the Apple card. Stay tuned for part 2 of this story.